the St. Regis Drug and Alcohol Division has produced this two-part series to provide further education about Mohawk people. This first, entitled Pregnancies According to Mohawk Tradition, further seeks to educate parents in the prevention of fetal alcohol syndrome for themselves, their children, and their grandchildren. I present to you Sagakunungwas, a Mohawk man who is now many years a grandfather, and whose life exemplifies who we are, who we were, and who creation meant us to be.
Okay, today we are gathered here, and the subject that we're going to talk about is about men and women according to the tradition of the Mohawk people or the Iroquois people. And I say Iroquois because the Iroquois, all the nations of the Iroquois have the very same tradition, the same value system and everything. So when we talk about Mohawk, we're also talking about Seneca or Onondaga or Oneida and so on, to Cayugas. Our elders told us many things about how a man and a woman should prepare for a baby to be born. There's different rules of the do's and the don'ts about having a child. And a man and a woman, before one has a child, needs to be prepared so that they know the exact details and the amount of work that's needed, so that when the baby is arriving, the baby is taken care of in the most high-class, sophisticated, and the most strongest, secure way. One of the main teachings also that has been said by our elders is that in the eyes of the Creator, of all the things that are in the world, of every life form that there is, that in the eyes of the Creator, our elders said, that the Creator values nothing more in all of the world or the universe than that's a brand new baby, whether it's a human baby, whether it's a baby like a tadpole from frog, or a baby deer, or anything that's infant and new life, animal, bird, or human, is what the Creator values the most. And that's one of the teachings also, is you're never supposed to touch the nests of birds or animals have a nest somewhere. You never bother them when they're having babies, whatever. That's the most wrong thing that one can do. And our elders often told us about that. The other thing that our elders said now, they said when a man and a woman are married together, they have committed promises to take care of each other's for the rest of their life. I suppose that that's probably the biggest teachings, because the elders told us that we were just like the eagle. The eagle is the most highest bird, most valuable bird of all the birds, because the eagle is considered the leader of all the birds. And the eagle, female and male, when they get together, we will call it marriage, in marriage or whatever, but just come together, that's their marriage. If one of them should die, the other one never looks for another partner for the rest of its life. That's the way the eagle does it. That's their way. And so my grandmother told me that we follow the eagles the way they do. We always try to stay with one mate as much as we can. Now, with this commitment of a lifetime, that's where the children will be born. A nice family will come from there with security. In the Iroquois tradition, it says in there that when a father and mother is going to have a child, that the mother is pregnant. But also in our Iroquois and Mohawk tradition, it says that the husband is also pregnant. There is no such thing as just only the mother, the woman, to be pregnant. Whoever's the father is also pregnant, because it took two to make that baby, and it takes two to take the responsibility of that child. There's no such thing as only one. And so, for the duration of 9 months, the man and the woman, there are many things that we are told, this you can do this, and certain things you cannot do or you should not do, so that the baby will be healthy and the baby will be strong when the baby is born. And that's the one that I like to talk to you about, is some of those do's and some of those don'ts, so that you might spread the word to your relatives and to cousins you have or whatever, so that they may know this as well, and then our tradition will be strong, because if our tradition is strong, our children is also strong. It is said, the way my grandmother said, number one, when they're pregnant, men and women, that the husband is going to be just like a pillow for 9 months. A pillow means it's soft, and it takes the, you touch onto it, it just bends and it conforms to whatever goes onto it. And that's the way the man is going to do. Now, what does she mean by that? The man has to be like a pillow. She means this. She means that when the woman's body is changing with the chemical things necessary in order for a little baby to be developed and made in her body, it affects the chemicals in her body very radically, and it causes her personality to have mood swings here and there. And when that's the case with mood swings, sometimes the wife becomes angry fast, and she's sharp with her words, and she might try to hit you with her words, or even hit you with this. And that's how come Grandma said the husband has to be like the pillow. He has to be man enough to take those sharp words. He has to be man enough to take those, even if she punch him or push him or something, the husband has to be like a pillow and just take the cushion. And don't argue back to your wife during this time of 9 months. And that's nature, the way it is in a natural way. Now, if you don't do that, if you aren't able to do that, this is what's going to happen. The little tiny baby who's within, if the father and mother is arguing or fighting and arguing, the little baby is going to feel that. The little baby, because it is understood in our traditions that the little baby is going to feel everything the moment there's a conception. And the only baby is just a little tiny dot. Already this baby is in the process of learning how to be a human being, and he learns that from his mother and his father while he's inside getting developed. He's starting to learn. Every day he get another one on, another one on, another one on, until he becomes just like a little baby. And so all the things that happens in the 9 months period of time, the spiritual things, the physical things, the emotional things, everything is going into and transferring to that little baby, to that is that what they call it in English, the fetus? Is that what they call it? Yeah, it's transferring. So therefore, our elders told us, in all Iroquois, so understood, that if a father and mother argues, this little baby is going to feel that as well. And then this little baby inside the mother is going to be saying or thinking, how come my father and my mother is arguing? Why are they having this dispute? I'll bet you that I'm the cause of this arguing that's going on. So I don't want to come to this earth to cause trouble with my father and mother. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go back to the Creator's land, and there will be an abortion, or the baby will abort its own self, and the baby will be lost. And then that's what might happen. Like, it's likely that that could happen. And so that's why my grandmother and other different elders told us, don't be arguing when it's like that. Sometimes the mother will do the arguing, initiate arguing, but the father is not to argue back. He's only just take it, and if he can't take it, well then hold your breath, turn around and go outside and just leave her there arguing, but don't argue her back. Just go away so that there won't be an argument. And then come back later because it'll cool off, everything will be all right. But don't be there if you can't take it. And that's what one of the teachings is, so that the baby won't abort. See. Now, another thing that the elders have told us about is that because in the eyes of the Creator, a newborn baby is so highly prized by the Creator, that the Creator, according to these elders, have bestowed upon each expectant mother and father 7 times, multiple of 7, your power that you have before pregnancy. So what my power is now, when my wife becomes pregnant, her and I will have 7 times more power than we normally have. The reason why is because the baby is so valued by the Creator that the Creator gives the power of the father and mother that much power, so this baby can have a chance to survive and to be born on this earth. And so when that happens, when I've heard the elders talk about this power, having such a high power, I was thinking that, and while this is the knowledge that we have, the older people used to have medicine all the time. When you're older, you get to be 70, 80 years old, old people always had tonics made by the gallons, and they drink that to fix their blood, to fix their bones, to, because they need lubrication. And these tonics that they used to make from herbs did that. So sometimes they used to live to be 100 years old, 110 years old long ago when they did this. And so whenever an older man or woman gets old, they always have medicine. And so one of the teachings is that when you are pregnant, the man and the woman, you are not to go visiting house to house unannounced. You can go visit someplace, but you got to tell them ahead of time that you're coming there. Don't go there just surprising them. Because if you go there, you may ruin their medicine that those old people have that you're going to visit. What do I mean by that? I mean that you have 7 times more power than you normally do. So in effect, this man and woman who are going to have a baby are just like a nuclear power. You know how nuclear power is? You can't see it, you can't feel it, but it can kill you, it can knock you down. And that's how an expectant father and mother is the same way. So one time, to illustrate this, when my wife and I were expecting our first child, I always go to see my grandmother every day because I loved my grandmother. So I went to see her every day, you see. And I walked in there thinking nothing of it, and she's old. And here she was pouring her medicine from the jug she always had, her medicine. And she says, that means you ruined my medicine, just simply because of my presence, because my wife was pregnant, see, that 7 power. And she says, you ruined my medicine. And it took them a long time to gather these herbs and to dry them and to prepare it and everything. And here I come and ruin it. So what my grandmother says, it's all right. She says, come here. So she pours me a little glass of water, and I drink that water, that medicine, it's like a water form. And she says, I just take 1 swallow, she said. So I put it on like this, and I drink 1 swallow. She says, you made my medicine 7 times more powerful than it was before. She says, now put your finger in the jug. So I put my finger and I touched the medicine inside the jug. She says, now you restored the power even 7 times more than it was before. You helped me out now, she said. So what she did was she turned a negative into 7 times the positive. What a wonderful way our tradition is. You know what I mean? Turn something like that right around and make it real much more better. But she says that's why you mustn't go house to house unannounced, because you may ruin somebody's medicine, and it won't be intentionally, and it'll hurt your baby, and it could hurt the medicine too. That's one of the teachings. And then Grandma used to say, and the elders used to say, now, during this 9 months of pregnancy, don't ever put anything around your neck that's tight or snug on your neck. Don't button the top of your shirt. Don't put necktie on. Don't put choker on. Don't put anything tight on your neck, the husband or the wife. Because the little baby that's inside the mother has what they call a cord, a birth cord. And it's along on there, and it's hooked to the mother, to the baby. That's how the baby eats and gets fed in oxygen. Now, if the father or the mother is to button the top of their shirt or wear a choker, you know how it feels when you wear a tie? It's very uncomfortable. Yeah. Well, if you do that, the baby also feels that inside. And so that baby will try to move around, maneuver around inside the mother until he feel or she feels the same sensation as the father or the mother who has a choker on the neck. But many times that's the cause of this baby, the cord, the birth cord, to go around the neck and cause the baby to be strangled to death, and they will die. And so that's why we are told not to wear anything close to your neck, always loose when you're pregnant. Another teaching that we have is this. Grandma used to say, when you're going in your house, don't never stand in the doorways and rest your elbow against the doorway. Go all the way through, but don't ever pause or stay at the door. When you go up the stairs of your house, don't go up the stairs and you're halfway up the stairs and all of a sudden you remembered, oh, I left something on the kitchen table, and then turn around and go get it. Go all the way up the stairs, then go get it, what you left. But don't stop and go back down halfway, because what Grandma said is if you stay in a doorway and you go upstairs and you go halfway up, when the baby is ready to be born, that baby is going to start going down the birth canal, and when he gets at the doorway, he'll stay there and he put his arm up there and he'll take his time, or else he'll say, oh, I forgot something, and he go back. And the mother is going to have a heart labor, and the baby is also going to have a hard time. A stubbornness like that's going to take place. And so also that baby will inherit that thing, always forgetting something, see. So don't do that when you're pregnant. Go through all the way. If you forget, well then go all the way and turn around and complete your thing. And so the baby's delivery will also be complete when it's ready to be born. Another thing that I remember our elders telling us is that you must never, the woman, the mother or the father, when you lay in your bed, there's a pillow on one side and where your feet goes on the other. And you lay on your bed a certain way. Don't just flop across the bed. Because if you flop across the bed, again, when the baby's ready to be born and travel the birth canal, he's going to lay across there just like that. Block the road to get born. And you're going to have a hard time. And the baby will have a hard time. So you always begin to do everything in the natural way so that the baby understands and is starting to flow so the birth can be easy, see. And it takes the whole 9 months of preparation for that. Now, another teachings that the elders told us about was this. You never go into a crowd of people or into a meeting somewhere where there's a lots of people. And the reason why you don't do that is because many times you don't know who's going to be in the crowd. And if you went into the crowd and you seen somebody with a birthmark on their face, or maybe you seen somebody with a leg cut off or limping or something wrong, and when you see those persons or somebody like that, you don't mean any harm, but a lot of times it's because it's not natural. You find yourself staring at them, but you don't intend to do that. You don't want to be disrespectful, but it's just a natural thing. Anything that doesn't look normal, it catches your eye right away. And if you're pregnant, father or mother, that will transfer and mark the baby. The chances of it marking the baby are great. So that's why you don't want to go into crowds where there's a lot of people, because you don't want to get that mark on that baby, you see. Now, of all of these things, these teachings, these are only some of those teachings you see of the do's and the don'ts about the baby and so on. The other thing I forgot that's very important is this. My grandmother said, when you're pregnant, get up early in the morning. Father and mother both, get up early. Don't sleep late till 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock like that. Because if you do that, that baby is going to learn how to do that too. And the next thing you know, that baby will be up all night, sleep all day, and you have to work hard, see. So that's why she said, always go to bed early when you're supposed to. And, you know, if you get tired during the day, it's all right to go take a nap. As long as you make sure you get up when the sun gets up, you see, then that baby will follow the same pattern as a human being, and you won't have no trouble to stay up all night long with the baby. And there's all these little teachings about such things. And now, I think what I'm going to do is lay the most biggest teaching about a father and a mother, is that in the teachings, what we call Gaihuyo, the Gaihuyo, it says in there, this is in Mohawk, it says, that's what it teaches. It says in the teaching. That means the Creator said to the Mohawk Indian people, He said to the Iroquois people, to the Indian people, He said, He sent His message over almost 200 years ago. He said, don't ever pull it or touch anything that alters or changes your natural state of thinking, your mind. And what that means in plain English is the Mohawk people, by our tradition, are forbidden to touch alcohol, whiskey, wine, or any kind of alcohol content stuff. It also means marijuana or cocaine or drugs of any kind. We're forbidden to touch that if it changes the natural state of our natural being. The Creator doesn't want us. And if we were to do that, that will hurt the kids. It will hurt our partner. It will hurt all our family. And it will cause a big blemish upon our family, and there will be misery. And so that's why I always include that in the teaching. That's the most important one, is no alcohol or drugs when the baby is coming, or even when the baby is here. Stay away from it, because it's going to contaminate that baby. And another thing in that Gaihuya, what it talks about, it says, if you have a little baby or a little child, and somebody that's drinking comes to your house, and you see them coming, hide your children. Send them upstairs. Don't let them be there in the same room when there's a drinking man or woman there. Because if they grab that child, you know how sometimes they like to play with kids? They'll grab it and throw them up in the air. They might drop it and break his neck. They don't realize, because they're drinking, you see. And also, if they breathe the fire breath of alcohol on that little baby or little child, then that little child, it will go in and it'll act like a seed in that little baby. And as soon as that baby is a young teenager, he'll start already to follow his uncle or whoever it was that was drinking, because it contaminated them. That's part of the teachings of the Gaihuyo in the Mohawk tradition. And so anyways, now at this point, the other teaching that goes along with this is that a man who is the husband of this child, when the mother is ready to have the baby, to deliver the baby, he should be close by. Even if he can be there at the delivery, is most the best. Or else, if the mother doesn't want him there where the delivery is, well then he should stay in the next room where he's close by, so in case his wife calls him, he can be there in just a split second. That's the way our elders told us. It's the proper way. She said, my grandmother, that you're not a real man if you're not there when your child is born. That's the most important thing, is for a woman and father to be together when the child is coming into the world. And another thing I'm going to add on to the teachings of the elders is that when your baby is first born, make sure that the first words that your baby hears, once it comes out of the root canal, the birth canal, root canal, birth canal I'm talking about, is that the first thing that you should say in your language, you talk your language, that baby will hear that language the first, and that's what will be the first one is going to be kept in that baby's body. So that way, when that baby hears Mohawk after that, that's the first language, and that's the one that's going to stick. See, but if you take the baby in the hospital, someone he hear French or English, then that's going to be the first language, and they're going to always lean towards that more. They don't even want to hear the Mohawk later, see. So that, I don't know if that's true, but that's what some of the elders told us, to make sure of that. Now, in my travels, I'm going to tell you something. I've told this story too to different people in my travels, and sometimes people said, oh, I heard a little bit about that before. It's not just Indians that say that either, especially that marking of the baby. Even the European descendants people say that. But they say, oh, we thought that was old white wives' tales. You know what I mean? But you know, in my conclusion of this presentation to you about the importance of that is this, that if someone takes the opinion that that's old wives' tales, I think they're missing the whole point of being a human being, really. Because the point is that if a man and a woman adheres to all these so-called old wives' tales for the whole 9 months, you can pretty much be guaranteed that when that baby is born, that father and mother who have done this 9 months of observances really loves that baby, and that baby is going to be wanted in the most highest and the most dignified way, and that baby will never be subject to any danger, but will have a very good life. And that's the point of it, that we prepare for our children, and our families are kept strong and sacred. And I will add also that cigarette smoking is not supposed to be done by our people either, even though I used to do that myself. But smoke of tobacco is to be used in a sacred spiritual manner, not to be put in our mouth into smoke. You know, that's not really what we're supposed, because we are committing acts of sacrilegious when we do that. So when one is pregnant, now even the doctors is saying that too, you're not supposed to smoke either, because it can hurt the baby. Okay, now I wanted also to mention that once the baby is born, in the old Mohawk tradition, there is a ritual or an observance that is done by the mother and the father, especially the father or the uncle, the mother's brother especially. And it's called a welcoming the baby. And what you do, you're supposed to, when you have a baby, have a name already, whether it's a female name or a man's name, male's name for the baby. Almost the moment that baby is born, you should have a name already, because you don't know how long that baby is going to be here. And as long as he breathed the breath of life of earth, then he should have a name like everybody on the earth. See, even if he passed away quickly, well, he's got the name. He came here to the sacred place, and he's going to another sacred place, you see. And that's understood. But in this ceremony of welcome, you know how they do the opening prayers at the meetings and stuff like that? That's what you use when you welcome the baby. So the father, most likely the father, and the uncle, maybe both together, will take the baby. As soon as the baby's passageways are cleared, you know, the nose and the mouth and everything, not even giving him a bath yet, but clean the passageways, you take that little girl or little baby boy, the father and the uncles, and they sit somewhere, and you hold that little baby, and he says to the little baby, I'm your father, and this is my name, I'm your father. And this is the name we give to you. The women chose this name for you. And you tell them the name. And then you say, my Creator, I want to give you my love, my greetings, and my thankfulness that you send this, my little baby, here safely to be born. First, I thank you, my Creator. And then you say, Creator, this name the women chose for the baby. And Creator, I want to introduce you to the earthly name now. Then you start with the opening prayer. You know how they start with Mother Earth? And you hold your little baby, and you says to the baby, you said, this, I want to introduce you, my daughter, my son. This earth is your mother, our mother. And she's going to give you all the things you need to live all your life. And so as you grow up to walk and to become a man and to have children yourself, you will develop this good relationship with your mother, and you will respect her. And you say, Mother Earth, this is my baby's name. and you tell the Mother Earth, what's your baby's name? You finish that, then you talk to the water, the rivers that nourishes, quenches the thirst of life. And you say to the waters of the world, this is my baby's name. I want you to have a good relationship. You will be interdependent with each other for the rest of your life, his life or her life. And you do that to the trees, to the medicine, to the wind, to the sun, to everything that contributes to that little baby's relationship. You introduce. It's called introduction or welcome on the baby. And all my children, I did that to them so that they will have reverence for our ways of belief in our Mother Earth and everything. And even when my kids were born in the hospital, I did it there too. Even sometimes nurses watched me and asked me if they could stay there and listen. But everything was in Mohawk. They couldn't understand anyways. But later they asked me to translate what was I saying. And I did. And those nurses, they thought that that was the most beautiful thing that they ever witnessed when the Mohawk people do that. They welcome their new babies. And I think that's so wonderful that children has in such a nice place in the old tradition. I think that's what we need more for all families, is to get back those traditions, because then we will have strong, loving families. So I want to thank you all for coming this evening, and this movie that we're making, a video. We'll be traveling to different homes, and because most of our grandparents are gone now, the ones that used to know these things. And many times we didn't take the time to listen to them or to gather their knowledges in one place, to use it and to make practical use of it. So here's another chance so that they may do that. And so I thank you for coming to listen to these few messages about birth and healthy families. Yawon.